Mensuri Gakusei. Thank you for tuning in to Mizuchi Dojo Radio, a weekly podcast featuring discussions between the best martial arts in Western New York on a variety of martial arts concepts. I'm your host, Bill Reynolds, and joining me today are these panelists. We have Chris Davison, training since January 2014, a fourth degree black belt in ITF Taekwondo. Rob Guida, training since 2010, owner operator of MSD Kempo Karate since 2012, second degree black belt in Kempo Karate. And we've got Chris Poet, training since 1990, sixth degree black belt in Bushido Kai. You can find this information about our panelists and more in our show notes. This week's Mojo Dojo is Hana Center, located on 791 Center Street, Lewiston, New York, specializing in Muliway martial arts instruction as well as the provision of Vinyasa Yoga. So this week, we're going to pick up on a topic that was suggested by Chris Davison, which is sort of pursuant to last week's in a way, when we were asking, how do you help people figure out what is it that they're looking for in martial arts? How do we help them get there? The question was, what if you identify within a student that there's material that is significantly beyond them? How do you help them with that? What do you do with that? Chris, since this was your suggestion, why don't you get us started? Hajime.
Yes, sir. So the question arises from a student that no longer trains in the dojang where I train. Gentleman, a little younger than me, background in education, really smart guy, liked him a lot, but every time he would spar, he would be out of control.
Like
couldn't
hurtful?
control himself.
Like hurtful? Like he hurt people?
As in, even though he was in his 40s, he seemed to not be in control of where his hands and feet went.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, he would, he'd be sparring. He'd take a kick to the belly and would become enraged and let fly. And there were instances where they had to be separated. There were instances where he hit a guy that when he was down.
Oh boy.
Do I know this guy?
We can talk offline.
Okay. That means yes.
So, I told him straight up, I'm like, you shouldn't spar. You're not comfortable at it. And as soon as you feel any threat, and he was a huge guy, he's probably 6'4", very, very big guy. Did not really a lot to fear from sparring other students, because most of them are significantly smaller. But there were, like I said, there were occasions where he would take it to him because he thought, oh, he meant to hit me hard, so I'm gonna waylay this fool. And I actively told him, you shouldn't spar. If you're gonna spar with me, because I can take what you're dishing out, and I will explain to you in no uncertain terms, you're going too hard. So, like I said, he no longer trains at Pride. I'm not sure what happened to him. But as an example, he was sparring with my son, William. And William's a pretty quiet guy, but he kind of a short fuse. And this gentleman was kicking William low. And William told him 3 times, you're hitting me too low. You're hitting me too low. And the last time the guy did it, William's like, this is him telling me the story. He's like, I said in my head, the only way he's going to stop is if I make him stop. So William, who's got the thighs like tree trunks, dropped a sidekick on this guy. And again, he's 6'4", probably 230, put him on his ass. And William walks over and helps him up and said, I told you to quit hitting me low. And he did, and he kind of left in a huff. But he explained it to him in the only way that seemed to work. So that's the kind of student that I was talking about with the question. It could pertain to kata. Fortunately I can still do aerial maneuvers, but at some point I'm not going to be able to. And some people may never have the coordination to do it, a jump 360, land in a knife hand stance, whatever. And, you know, for those kind of people, maybe you give them a workaround. You say, well, the Taekwondo books only says you have to end in this position. It doesn't really say how you get there. So you give them a workaround instead of a jump, maybe just a straight knife hand or whatever. That's where I was going with the question. So I'll leave it there.
Okay. Chris Poet.
I'm still in shock about that student there, Chris.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
it was quite the
For the sake of not getting charged with defamation or slander, we'll take that off air.
You've never seen that? You've never seen that, Chris? I've seen it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, like in my experience, I've seen similar stuff where sparring actually gets way out of control, and yeah, and usually it's just what always happens, just like what Chris had mentioned, is someone usually gets, I shouldn't say put in their place, but usually whether it's a side kick or a punch or something like that, just to let them know that, hey, listen, you need to settle down a little bit. It's yeah. Anyways, back to the topic. What was it?
So the topic is: have you encountered a student where you felt like some aspect of your school's curriculum was, at that moment anyway, beyond their ability, or would be so seriously challenging as to be, not appropriate? And I guess in this case, Chris's example was just like, this is somebody who was unable to fight within sport conditions. They were unsportsmanlike. But what experiences have you had with like encountering students who are turn out to be limited for whatever reason, whether it's mentally or physically?
Yeah, I guess maybe in the same kind of, we do a lot of arm bars and wrist locks and stuff like that, and typically, like in a like an arm bar or wrist lock that's done on the streets per se, they're normally done fast and hard, and you are going to break a wrist, or in an arm bar you'd probably take them down to the ground. But yeah, yeah, those are, I think wrist locks are very, very challenging and difficult to do, so you don't hurt somebody. So yeah, I've come across students that have difficulties with that. On both sides of the spectrums. Just as said, Mr. Davidson was saying, sometimes we get people that really crank down too hard. Like, it's just, yeah, that's why we do them slow, to um, show control, and maybe sometimes people have just a difficult time in trying to grab the wrist and twist it, or in some way to do a lock. So um, it's challenging.
But do you ever get I guess almost what Chris was sounding like, this wasn't like difficult for this guy to rein it in, to show control, to have a sportsmanlike attitude with regard to sport fighting, sparring, as it's called. Um, and it seemed like it was outside of his ability. And eventually, for whatever reason, he stopped training. But I mean, that would be one as good as any other reason, I guess, to stop, because you realize you're not able to do what your instructors are asking you to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But have you
And
ever encountered that thing?
in this example, he was a genuinely nice guy. It's just
Right.
when he got hit, it was on.
Right. It was triggering,
Whether
right? Yeah.
it was a mental thing for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's,
So did you ever encounter anything like that with students, Chris, in your school, where the material was beyond them for whatever reason, or it seemed like it was far from reach in that moment?
I don't think yeah, not a, I mean, I've seen stuff like that happen. I, I've never been involved in any of that, but no, yeah, it's just, I don't know. I just, I guess it blows my mind that someone couldn't just control themselves. I know they were triggered, but I don't know. I guess every time I've always sparred, there's always that mutual respect. I'm not there to I'm not there to take your head off and break a rib, especially like in tournaments, why am I going to try to go full out and try to, kick, sidekick someone as hard as I can to win a little piece of plastic at the end. I mean, it's, I don't know. It's just, that's just my take on it.
Okay. If you have any other thoughts, like if you're, like I said, beyond just this example of Chris's, but it sounds almost like you're saying that in your experience at your school, you haven't really encountered a student who was severely struggled with some aspect of training. Not that it was difficult for them, but they actually just genuinely couldn't get it.
Uh, yes, I mean, as far as like techniques go, and maybe whether it's a move in a kata, whether it's a jump, was it like Chung Mu? Actually, that 360 jump in Chung Mu, I don't. Chris
Some
Davis
people
knows
can
that.
never just can't do it.
Yeah, exactly. They just can't do it. It's difficult to launch yourself up, jump up in the air, and so I we try to find alternates. I mean, just how Chris said, sometimes you can't have the student jump up in the air anymore. Maybe it's just more of a hard stance or so. I don't know.
Robert, opening thoughts.
Okay. I think we're talking about three different things. So, like,
Pick
Well,
one.
three different
yes,
panelists, three different things.
three,
That's
three different
okay.
things, and I will touch on all of them because I think they're all kind of interesting. Yes, there are certainly students who can't grasp material because of whatever reason, limitations or age or physical problems, and yes, we have to adjust and they can't do it for whatever particular reason. We adjust because they're good students and we're trying to teach them and they're trying to grow, right? Like that's what good schools do. Like we don't throw them out because they can't do material. That's one thing. The second thing that I heard, that was which is happens a lot, like Chris talked about, Chris Paulette, like a guy who doesn't have control, good dude,
Right.
but just doesn't like the wrist locks are too hard and just can't seem to hold a punch a little bit. Just tries really hard and wants to, but just can't seem to do it. I can work with that. Like that's just experience and time and like you got to be careful who your training partner is, and you got to be careful like what you ask him to do. Like one of my students, George, is like that. Great dude, fantastic. Wrist locks are always too fast. So I make sure that whoever does the wrist locks with him is someone who knows wrist locks and can react fast enough, right? Otherwise, someone's gonna get hurt, right? Like I recognize that as the instructor. And then what Davidson's talking about is completely different.
Hmm.
And uh, I got to be honest. I was that dude at one point where I threw a guy through a wall, literally
Hmm.
broke the drywall, put a hole in the wall because he kicked me so hard. I thought he kicked me hard. And I picked him up and I threw him through a wall. I was probably 26, and I hit him a few times in the face. And then I was on the other side of that too when I was a little bit older, where a guy came too hard and I did what your son did. And this isn't a tough guy story. This is just, you know, this is reality. I mean, he didn't have the control that I had learned, and I had to teach him control. And I think the I think the hard part is when you have somebody that's that big that you're talking about, Davidson, like who are they going to spar against? Like your son is one person that I would say, okay, he's a tree trunk. You, okay, you know, Pod, sure, but you're not putting him up against Nancy. Like you're not, you know what I mean? Not to pick on Nancy, but he's not sparring Jake probably. Like Jake's a good dude, but like if he loses control, like you got to be like that's a really tough one, Bill, because you got to be super careful
Yeah.
because and you want and from one point of view you want to help them, right? Because I was there and I get it. Like how do you help them? Well, I mean, I got helped by being humbled and I learned it and maybe that works, but maybe it doesn't work for somebody else because they just can't control themselves. But But man, that's a unique problem. That's tough.
Yeah.
As a school owner, that's tough because I got to think about a lot of things like the health of my students and the safety and liability and all these other things too.
Right. So I think what you're getting at, Robert, is that beyond the responsibility to the student to help them with this material that is apparently significantly difficult for them, you have a responsibility to the rest of the students and the school to make sure that that handicap doesn't affect them.
Sure. I mean, if I was 35, I'd say you're only sparring me.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because that's safe, right? One, he's not going to hurt me because he better not be able to hurt me, otherwise I shouldn't be teaching. Two, I'm going to be able to hit him hard enough that he's going to think twice about trying to do that again. Um, but it's such a tough one. I mean, like,
Yeah. And I,
Well,
other than the fact that I personally like the guy, it's probably better that
that's
he's
even
not
harder.
training anymore.
Yeah, that's even harder. You like the guy. He's not a bad
Yeah.
guy. He just doesn't have the control.
He
Like, it's even harder.
he would get hit and it would just you could just see it go. And you're like, okay, here it comes. I need to get in there.
mm.
I mean, what helped me, honest to God, what helped me was being humbled a few times. And that helped me in
you
the army, just getting my ass kicked and and realizing that, I wasn't as tough as I thought I was.
Hmm.
And that really calmed me down.
I know that is the one, like of all the things that this seems to be the one issue is like having help whether a person's able to engage in sport sparring in a manner that is sportsmanlike, because that's the only one like I can think of where like people, I remember not as an instructor, just as a senior student, uh, somebody saying, that guy right there, he needs a lesson in how to either control himself or, as one of my instructors said to me once, get what he gives, and then decide whether that's what if he wants to keep giving what he's been giving because he doesn't like getting what he gets.
yeah.
And I've been on more than one of those, which was again, to be fair to the school owner and the actual instructors, this was nothing that they said to us to do. This is us as senior students saying, "What the heck with that
Yeah.
guy? Let's straighten him out." Um, so
What
yeah, and
one
I
of
don't
one of the
know.
one of my coolest Kempo stories. We were at a seminar in Boston, about 70 people, all black belts, all rocking and rolling, like going fast, like having like it was fantastic. One dude was just going too hard. And he was clearly kicking the shit out of his partner, like hitting him so hard to the point where the partner was not crying, but hurt,
Mm.
right? I got to tell you, my teacher, this is Jason, Chris, not Mrs. C.
Okay.
But my teacher and every single person over the rank of 6th degree lined up to partner with him. Like it was a line, like a line of people. And they're like, I'm next, I'm next, I'm
Mm,
next. And they taught that guy a lesson that I will never forget. And I was
mm,
just watching,
mm,
you know, and yeah, it's self-correcting sometimes. And,
That,
and you're right, there was no discussion.
mm.
There was no like, I'm in charge of the seminar. We're gonna teach this guy a lesson. It was just like everyone's like, "Holy shit!" And then
oh,
guys just lined up
yeah.
for it.
Well, the experienced people can look at that and know what that guy needs, maybe
Yeah,
because at some point that's what they needed.
Mm,
yeah,
mhm.
You're like, yep.
I needed
Okay.
it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Is that Arnold? Jason Arnold?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's
Don't let him fool you. He's
no, no,
he's
no, no.
meaner. Oh wow, he is.
He
He
looks
he's a
like
great
this.
guy, but
He looks like this skinny little dude, but I wouldn't want to fight him.
no, you
No,
wouldn't want to fight him with three of your friends.
no,
Mm.
thank you.
No.
Yeah, so it sounds like from what people are saying that none of us have really encountered like the traditional training material that is beyond a person, and that without, just with special attention or modifications, they can still do the material they're it's accessible, and certainly that's been my experience. I have, even with people who tell me I've got this, I got that. The only time where, and actually they didn't go on to train with me. They asked me if they were wheelchair bound, if they could train with me, and I said absolutely. Just really, so my school is not really handicap accessible. So I said, you'd probably be better off going to a school
That,
where there's no stairs.
that's
Uh,
probably true. Your school's tough to get into.
oh yeah, yeah. Well, it's an old
Yeah.
building and it can't be
Yeah.
modified because of its historical status.
Mm.
Super cool if you've never been there. For those of you watching who've never been in the school, it's super cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's a small staircase up.
Yes, it's just a stairs up in and then another stairs to get on the floor. It's just not that. So I hope they were able to get good training somewhere. I did give them some names of places that I knew had that kind of just, right in off the street, no stairs involved thing.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
but instead, it sounds like what we've fallen upon for all of us is having encountered people who it was more a matter of their. I know probably sounds bad, but I can't think of a better word right now. Their character. That it was an aspect of who they were as a person. That in the case of this example we're using, they they couldn't not experience the training moment as something personal. When they got hit hard, they took it very personally and then responded in a very primitive way. And that definitely sounds like a barrier. That what do you do at that point? I mean, I guess were spared this, but like I know that, my consideration is that I would talk to a student like that, and if they didn't shape up, and I guess if, my students didn't secretly run a train on them, uh, then I would have to ask them to leave, just for the sake of the rest of my students. It's like, you
Well,
clearly
yeah,
can't handle this aspect, and this is a third of what we do.
and no one's going to want to train with him. So, what are you going to do?
No, yeah, I
That's
would
such a
certainly,
tough one.
yeah, but you
Such a
don't want
tough
people
one.
leaving their training behind because of that person.
Uh, so are we opening up now for
Yes, yes,
general
please.
discussion?
Hmm.
So along the lines, what about seriously students in need of serious consideration due to being special needs? There are some students at Pride that have very special needs, have a really hard time following any kind of basic curriculum, and the school tones it down, keeps things very basic just to keep them engaged. But do you guys have any input on that?
I think we've hit on this in a couple of prior
Yeah.
episodes. This
Yeah.
idea, like tailoring the training, tailoring the expectations to the student. I think Robert, you were on one of those where we basically said I'm going to evaluate their performance based on them, not on against some sort of abstract goal, but what I think they're capable of and what they actually then show and do. But yeah, open up other panelists. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's kind of how I do it, Chris. I mean, like I don't really care what the curriculum says as much as the growth of the individual. I think the challenge in teaching that way and having a school like that is you have to communicate that to the different students. Like, why am I harder on you than him? Like you have to have that discussion, right? And that's a tough discussion sometimes for a 12-year-old
Yep.
that may not get it. Like I don't, and so I try to have that discussion a lot with students. Like never compare yourself. I always say that. I judge based on where you started and where you are. I don't expect this person. I even say it in class. I don't expect this person to do this perfect. I expect this person to do this perfect. I call out the people who are the top students because everybody knows anyway. And I say I expect them to be perfect. I don't expect you to be perfect. I expect you to follow them. And 'cause I mean but in a way it's unfair, right? Like I get that too, but you can't, you got a guy who comes to class twice a week. He's got a mortgage, he's got a wife, he's got 3 kids, he's got a job all day long. He doesn't have time to practice.
Mm.
I'm way easier on him than I am on a 22-year-old that, you know,
They have nothing
has
better to do.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like why aren't you practicing? I play video
Right.
games. Fuck you.
Exactly.
Like
Man,
like you are not passing. I'm not testing you,
That's right.
you
When
know?
you're not eating or sleeping, I expect you on that floor.
Right. I mean, like there's no reason, you know. I give Samantha's one of my students been with me forever. I give her a hard time because she got a boyfriend, she stopped coming to class.
Mm.
And I'm like, I told her, I go, this is bullshit. This stops right now. You're coming back to class. Like, boy, like you're 16. Like this is not you're not getting married. And she did. And then she dropped a boyfriend. Now she's back out all the
oh,
time, which is great.
Yeah, there you go. That's the way it should go.
You know,
home
she didn't
wrecker.
drop
You're a home
she,
wrecker.
she didn't drop the boyfriend because of me. Big different reasons.
She should have
But I
brought
mean
him.
I think that's fair, right? Like how do we look at shit, I got my MBA. The teachers were way harder on the students that were right out of college than me
Mm.
because I'm owning a business and I have a job and I have a family. Like that's just you have to tailor the experience to the individual. And I'd argue that if you don't do that, you shouldn't be a teacher. You shouldn't own a school. I'd make that argument. You're not a good teacher, a good school.
You're not a good teacher, not a good school
If you don't tailor the experience to the individual,
okay.
if you can't do that, you know,
Right.
that's a yeah.
Take
I'll leave
that
it.
take that one step further though. And I haven't been in this situation. I don't think I'll ever be in this situation. But
No, asking
as
for a friend. Okay.
as yeah, I know this guy. Um, so take that to the next step. Gaining in rank. One person, the student, you said you need to be perfect because you can, and you need to be able to function at a level, here versus here.
Yeah.
How do you justify, as a wild example, them being the same rank, or does that just not happen?
To me, okay. Here's how I do it, and everyone's gonna be a little bit different. I use little electrical tape on the belts, and
Right.
I watch a test, and I say, Chris Poet passed, and Chris Davidson passed, and Bill passed, and you all earned your purple belts. But Davidson, you had a better test, and I give you a little red stripe, and I put you in front of everybody. You are the same rank, technically. You all passed, technically, but I acknowledge the person or people that
Hmm.
did it better than everybody else. And that's my little way of rewarding the person who puts the extra time in. Does that make sense? But I have no problem. I have no problem passing Chris Poet to a black belt if he can't do a cross step because he was out of his, for whatever reason he can't do it. Yeah.
Like I can't
You
even
know,
walk, right, Rob? Is that what you mean?
can't even walk. You know what I mean? Because I know where he came from and I know where he is right now, and that's appropriate. If
He
does
just
that make
called you
sense?
old.
It's a whole story. We'll tell you
Oh,
later.
I know. It's yeah.
Yeah, come to one of the high hours. I want to hear these stories. And
The can't walk you story is probably worth telling, Chris, but I'll let you tell it.
Oh, it
yeah.
was.
Well, yes, like I said, something that we can do off air.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I think that is, you know, to get to your question, Mr. Davison. Uh, I think I'm sort of in the same boat, I guess, with Robert. Just the fact is that, you know, um, if three three people are eligible for promotion to the same rank, do all three people demonstrate the material to the same degree and quality? And I think your question almost suggests the floor, how low in quality can it go and still call it that rank? But there's also, I don't know if you think about this, but there's a ceiling that a person can, demonstrate quite exemplary. And so is that even appropriate that they only go up that one rank? Shouldn't there be some way to indicate that they actually did better than that belt by a bit? And we don't do that
I'm
either.
just a senior
Yeah.
student. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't. No, I'm just saying we don't do
You're a
that.
master, Chris.
Nobody
What are you
does that.
talking about?
Yes, you're a master, Chris, and stop calling it the M word because I hear you saying something else every time you've done that, and I'm like, oh, what? Oh, right, master, which is sort of in the same realm, I guess. But yeah, so I think that's just a reality. Just like I was talking to somebody, Jet Li celebrated his birthday
Mm.
as of this recording today, and 63 years old. And there was a time where there was multiple cinematic martial artists out there, and they're all great, but some people are really great.
But
And
Jet Li was the shit.
right, that's what I mean.
Awesome.
He's really up
Yeah.
there. So
Really good.
but there's no distinguishing that. They're everybody that I can think of also in the same his contemporaries, Donnie Yen and Jackie Chan. They're good, but Jet Li good? I don't know. You know, so but they also are still deserving, in their own ways. They do the things a little differently. But I just appreciate what he does even more. I would give him that red piece of electrical tape, I guess, and after
I
the
mean,
performance.
you can use football as an example in a way. Like there's 1,800 NFL players in the world. Like like okay, these are the 1,800 best athletes in the world. Like they are way better athletes than anybody else anywhere, arguably. But there's only one Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson.
Hmm.
They're all football players.
Right,
I mean, like they're all the same rank. They're all
right,
football players.
right. You don't
But
let
there's
one of them be a quarterback because they're not quarterbackish enough.
yeah, but there's a difference, right?
Hmm.
There's Patrick Mahomes. You know what I mean? Like you're a backup cornerback, but you're still a football player.
Hmm.
Hmm. I don't know. I don't know if I like that analogy. Isn't there like a significant percentage of the NFL that are convicted felons?
No, I
Uh,
don't know. Like, come on. I mean, my point's still good.
Yeah, the point
yeah.
being is that like okay, bringing it back to belt or promotions, I think what I took from Robert's example was that you're looking at these people, they're all accomplishing something pretty cool, and the fact that some of them aren't as super cool as others can't like also run and throw, you know. That's
Yeah.
silly, but they can do the run, or they can do the throw, and awesome. They're basically showing the stuff. The fact that somebody can do it really way cool, and somebody is just barely making it over the finish line, and they all get the same recognition in the end. I feel like, well, yeah, that's fair because it certainly also not only we're not going to give people like in the I don't know, is this a Navy talk? I'm not gonna give them like something junior grade, and say, well, you're not quite there, or like I think both your branch service use the idea of lieutenant, so the emplacive, so like you're lieutenant colonel before you're a colonel, they're not
Yep.
quite a colonel, but I don't, even though they're all in outside of that casualty, I guess they're all colonels, but
Everybody calls me Colonel, but it's
yeah,
Lieutenant Colonel technically,
but
yeah.
but we all know who the lieutenant colonels are, and right. So
But that's a good example too, right? In the army, you get promoted. Everybody gets promoted, unless you do something stupid.
mm,
Everybody gets promoted. But there's a difference. Like like you have infantry officers, you have chemical officers. They both get promoted. There's a difference.
mm,
And but they get the same pay, they get the same rank, they get the same promotion, they get all that stuff the same. But everybody knows the difference.
mm,
I think the harder part is explaining to the student, honestly, why I demand more from one person than the other, or why one person's I expect more from than the other. I think that's the harder part.
hmm.
Hmm.
Yes,
Or the other way around. What trying to get the student that's not as good to understand that I don't expect them. Don't compare yourself to this person. They're in here 6 days a week. Like you can't compare yourself. That's hard too.
running up on time here, gentlemen. Final thoughts.
from the master?
I would have a very difficult time putting into practice what Rob is describing about I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we're saying not all brown belts are equal. There should
That's
be
what
a
I'm
base.
saying.
Well, there has to be a base level of
There,
this is a brown
agreed.
belt.
No, agreed. There has to be a baseline.
I I don't know. I will never own a school. I'll never run a school. Probably for the best.
Okay. Anybody else?
I will tell you, Chris, I used to think that way, and I got I got my mind changed by my teacher. She opened up my mind to what we're really trying to do.
Yeah, but she threw you through a wall.
But maybe that
No,
that
no, 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 no.
may,
She
okay.
didn't do that.
This
No,
sounds like
no.
a topic for another podcast. Is there a baseline to these belts? All right, and with that, I'm gonna have to say, Yame. Thank you, panelists, and thank you, listeners, for your attention. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic, and you can share them to our threads at Mizuchi_dojo, or you can email us at mizuchi.dojo.hanbu@gmail.com. Also, please consider supporting this podcast by subscribing via our Patreon. For $1 a month, you'll not only help keep this podcast on the air, but our dollar subscribers can vote on what topics the panels discuss in the future episodes. Higher contributors can have their feedback read on air, and even higher contributors can have a regular shout out to the martial arts school of their choice. You can find more information about this in our show notes as well as our Patreon page. Mata Yasai.
Yeah, where's that guy? Where's Dylan?
Yeah.
I don't know, he's a family man.
We're not.
I know. I don't know. That was no shit on you guys. I'm just giving excuses. He didn't say. Ooh, and boom, out.